In a bustling town, a man named Daniel lived with his wife and 2 children. Though they had a simple but happy life, Daniel was always restless. He worried endlessly about their future, believing they couldn't survive without him. No matter how hard he worked, the fear never left him. One day, he heard about a wise old sage who was said to help troubled souls find peace. Desperate for answers, Daniel visited him and poured out his worries. The sage listened patiently, then said, "Your fears are illusions. Life does not stop when one person leaves. Your family will find their way, with or without you." Daniel was stunned. The thought of life moving on without him felt impossible. Sensing his doubt, the sage made an unusual offer. Leave everything behind and dedicate yourself to a spiritual life. Free yourself from worldly attachments, and you will find true peace. Daniel hesitated. "But my family, who will take care of them?" The sage smiled. "You underestimate the strength of those you love. It is not them who cannot live without you. It is your mind that refuses to believe it." Daniel couldn't get those words out of his head. The next day, he returned to the sage's hermitage and attended a gathering on detachment. As the sage spoke, Daniel made up his mind. He would stay and devote himself to spirituality, but how could he tell his family he was leaving them forever? The sage had a plan. He taught Daniel the art of holding his breath for long periods, making him appear lifeless. "Use this wisely," the sage advised. "Your family will believe you are gone, and you will be free to follow your path." The next morning, Daniel took his family to the river, as usual. As they played in the water, he quietly held his breath and sank beneath the surface. His wife and children panicked. They searched frantically, calling his name, but he never surfaced. Hours passed. Heartbroken and exhausted, they finally accepted the worst: Daniel had drowned. With heavy hearts, they returned home mourning their loss. Meanwhile, Daniel emerged from the river unnoticed and walked to the hermitage, leaving his past behind. Days turned into weeks, and he immersed himself in devotion. But something troubled him. Did his family miss him? Were they struggling? One day, his wife arrived at the hermitage, seeking blessings. Hearing her voice, Daniel hid behind a pillar, eager to listen but afraid to be seen. The sage welcomed her warmly. "We mourn the loss of my dear disciple. How are you managing?" Daniel expected her to break down in tears. Instead, she spoke with quiet strength. "No one can replace him, but life must go on. My children and I have found our way. We are doing better than before." Daniel's heart pounded. How could she say that? How could they be happy without him? The sage watched his reaction and simply smiled. Later, he said, "Now do you see? They are not weak. Your absence did not destroy them. They learned to survive." But Daniel refused to believe it. Determined to test them, he spread a rumor in town that anyone who bought food from his wife would face misfortune. Fearful of bad luck, the villagers stopped buying from her. Days passed, but to Daniel's shock, his wife remained calm. She found new ways to support her family. His children continued their studies. Laughter still filled their home. Frustrated and defeated, Daniel made a decision. He would return home. Late at night, he knocked on the door. His wife's voice came from inside. "Who is it?" "It's me, Daniel." "Open the door," he whispered. A long silence followed. Then she spoke, her voice firm. "This is not a time for jokes. My husband has been dead for 2 months. Whoever you are, leave." "No, it's me. I never died." "I was with the sage all this time." A deep silence filled the air. Then she said, "Then you are no longer the man I knew." The Daniel the first loved would never abandon his family like that. "My children and I have built a life without him, and we will continue to do so. Please, go back to where you came from." Daniel stood frozen. The harsh truth sank in. He had left believing he was indispensable, but life had moved on without him. With a heavy heart, he turned and walked away. For the first time, he truly understood the lesson the sage had tried to teach him. Life does not stop for anyone. We may think we are essential, but the world moves forward with or without us. Strength does not come from dependence, it comes from resilience. Daniel thought his family would fall apart without him, but life continued, proving that no one is indispensable. His wife's unwavering determination and his children, his ability to adapt, showed that hardship can be overcome with courage. Clinging to ego brings suffering, while acceptance brings peace. In the end, Daniel learned a painful truth. True devotion is not about abandoning responsibility. It is about embracing reality. Life moves forward, with or without us. Jack was a hard-working delivery driver. Every day he raced across the city, dropping off packages, but no matter how hard he worked, money always seemed to slip through his fingers. He often joked that his bank account was on a strict diet whenever money came in. It vanished just as fast. One chilly evening, as he parked his van near a cafe, he noticed a woman standing alone with a little boy wrapped in a thin blanket. Her eyes were red, and she looked exhausted. A wave of sympathy washed over Jack. "Hey, need a ride somewhere?" he asked gently. The woman hesitated, then nodded, holding her child close as she climbed into the van. As they drove, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. She stared silently out of the window, lost in thought. When they reached their stop, she fumbled for her purse, but before she could pull out any money, Jack raised a hand. "Worry about it," he said with a warm smile. "Looks like you're having a rough day already." Her eyes welled up with tears. "Can't accept that," she whispered. Jack shook his head. "It's on me. Just take care of yourself and the little guy." She hesitated, then nodded gratefully. As she stepped out, she whispered, "Thank you." Jack drove home that night, wondering about her story, but reminded himself not to get too attached. Everyone had their own struggles. Just as he was about to drift off to sleep, his phone buzzed. He groaned, assuming it was a late-night spam call, but something told him to pick up. "Are you Jack, the delivery driver?" a calm yet serious voice asked. Jack sat up. Yeah, who's this?" The man on the other end sighed in relief. "I'm calling on behalf of the woman you helped tonight. She wanted to personally thank you for your kindness. It meant more than you can imagine." Jack blinked, caught off guard. "Oh, it was nothing, really. Just trying to help." The man's tone shifted. "Actually, there's more. She comes from a very wealthy family, but after a personal tragedy, she left everything behind and has been struggling alone. Tonight was one of her lowest moments, and your small act of kindness gave her hope." Jack's heart pounded. He had expected nothing in return, but hearing this made his simple gesture feel even more meaningful. "Her family knows what you did," the man continued, "and they'd like to meet you tomorrow." Jack nearly dropped his phone. "Meet me, why?" "Just come," the man said with a smile in his voice. "You'll see." The next morning, Jack stood outside a massive mansion, adjusting his worn-out jacket. He felt completely out of place. Taking a deep breath, he rang the bell. The door swung open, revealing a well-dressed man. "Jack, thank you for coming," the man said warmly. "Please come in." Jack stepped inside, his eyes widening at the marble floors, grand chandeliers, and paintings that probably cost more than his entire delivery van. They entered a sitting room where the woman from last night stood, now looking composed but emotional. "Jack, thank you so much. Last night I was at my breaking point, and your kindness reminded me that there are still good people in the world." Jack rubbed the back of his neck, feeling awkward. "I just did what anyone would do." "Not everyone," she replied softly. "Most people ignored me." The man beside her stepped forward. "Jack, her family wants to express their gratitude in a way that truly matters." Jack frowned. "Oh, there's no need for that, really." The man smiled. "We insist. They want to pay off all your debts and offer you a stable job in one of their companies." Jack's jaw dropped. "Wait, what? Me? Are you serious?" The woman nodded. "You showed kindness without expecting anything in return. This is our way of giving back." Jack stood in stunned silence. For years he had struggled, barely getting by. Now, because of one small act of kindness, his entire life was about to change. Days later, he started his new job. At first, it wasn't easy, but he was a fast learner. Before long, he was thriving, working his way up in the company. The woman and her family became more than just employers. They became friends. One evening, as Jack sat at home reflecting on how much his life had changed, He chuckled to himself. "Guess my bank account's diet is finally over," he muttered with a smile. Moral of the story: sometimes the smallest act of kindness can create the biggest ripple. We never truly know what someone else is going through. A simple gesture, whether it's a kind word, a helping hand, or a moment of compassion, can change a life in ways we can't imagine. The universe has a way of rewarding kindness in unexpected ways. So never hesitate to be the reason someone smiles today. The storm raged violently over the mountains, shaking the walls of the small village inn. Inside, a group of travelers sat huddled together, watching the rain hammer against the windows. They had set out on a journey that morning, but the storm had forced them to seek shelter in the only building for miles. Thunder boomed and the flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows across the room. Suddenly, the village elder, an old man with wise yet weary eyes, stood up. "This storm is not normal," he said, his voice heavy with unease. "I fear that someone among us is cursed." "Ah!" The travelers exchanged nervous glances. "What do you mean?" one of them asked. The elder sighed. "One of you carries bad luck. If that person stays with us, disaster will strike. But if they leave, we might be spared." Fear spread like wildfire. The travelers whispered among themselves, their eyes darting from one face to another. No one wanted to believe it, but the storm's wrath outside made them desperate. "We must find out who it is," another traveler insisted. "One by one, we'll step outside and touch the old oak tree in the courtyard. If the cursed one touches it, they will not return." A shiver ran through the group. One by one, they stepped out, touched the tree, and returned shaken but safe. As each person came back unharmed, suspicion grew. Finally, only one traveler remained, often overlooked, and now all eyes fell on him. "It must be you," someone muttered. The whispers grew louder. "You brought this upon us." The man's heart pounded. He hadn't done anything wrong, yet he could feel their judgment pressing down on him. The elder pointed to the door. "Go," he ordered. The man swallowed hard and stepped into the storm. Rain drenched him instantly as he made his way to the tree. His hands trembled as he reached out and touched the rough bark. He held his breath, waiting for something, anything to happen. Nothing. Relief flooded his chest, turned back toward the inn, ready to prove them all wrong. But just as he reached the doorstep, a deafening crack of thunder split the sky. Lightning struck the inn with a blinding flash, setting it ablaze. The man stumbled backward in horror as flames consumed the building in seconds. The very people who had cast him out were gone. Tears mixed with the rain on his face as the truth sank in. It wasn't the cause of their misfortune. It was the reason they had been safe all along. The moment they sent him away, their fate was sealed. We often judge others too quickly, blaming them for our problems without seeing the bigger picture.